Alright, ladies and gentlemen, based on that title that you read on YouTube, you can see that I'm going to be showing you how to DPS as an Arcane Mage. Alright, so this is a server where ICC does not have the 30% buff, and bosses are stronger than normal. So, in a 25-man raid, I was able to pull 9250 DPS. The other two mages were only able to do 7700 and 7366. Now, this may be because of their build, the gear they're using, or the specs, but I'm going to show you how to maximize your DPS as an Arcane Mage and point out a lot of good, useful tips for any DPS in general. So let me just buff up with my self buffs. These are the basic buffs. So what you want to do is on all your gear as an Arcane Mage, you want to make sure that you have spell power, crit, and haste. A lot of people will argue that haste is better than crit, but in 25-man raids, I would argue that crit is just as good as haste, and you want to have a balance of both of them. I would suggest 700 haste minimum about there, and in a 25-man raid, I go up to about 60% crit chance at this point. So until you can get full 4-piece tier 10 to give you the mirror image buff, you should be using 2-piece tier 9. These you can buy with Emblems of Triumph. So you want to, like most classes, like not every class is going to be like this, but most classes you want to use your tier 9 bonus. So mine is I get 15% more crit from spirit. So all the spirit on my gear, like the 64 spirit, I get 15% more of that as crit rating. You want to make sure that all your gear is enchanted and gemmed. I know it's a pain in the ass to go farm and grind, but they do make up a big difference. They can boost your DPS by 100 to 200, like per like fucking gem and enchant and everything. So please make sure that you get that. Your tier 9 bonus and your tier 10 bonus are really nice as a mage. The tier 10 bonus, the first tier 10 bonus is more useful for arcane than the 4-piece bonus, but the 4-piece bonus does boost your damage massively at certain damage spikes. So what you want to do is you want to get your Trial of the Crusader dungeon trinkets. Your trinkets give you extreme damage. You might not think it, but like 590 spell power for 10 seconds every 45 seconds is a lot of spell power. But the real bonus here is that it's a giant proc whenever you get a crit, and it procs pretty high chance. It's about 33% chance to proc on it. So if you use both of these and you have a lot of haste and crit at the beginning of a fight, they'll both work at the same time. So that'll stack up, and then you have your light weave embroidery from tailoring. Most mages go with it. So let me see. It's right here. So it gives you 295 spell power for 15 seconds. So now that you know that you need to prioritize spell power, crit, and haste, you do need to make sure that you have 11% crit chance, because your talents, you're gonna take 3% crit chance or 3% hit chance from your arcane spells here, and then you're gonna get 3% hit chance in a group from a Boomkin or a Shadowpriest. Okay, so you max out at about 11% crit chance in a raid. So you can get crit, hit chance, and then you can get crit and haste, and you want to equalize these, but you also want to make sure you're getting a lot of spell power. You get like the best possible weapons that you can, and yeah, battered hilt is a decent weapon to go for, but it's not worth the price in my opinion. But don't forget that you can get an extra gem in your belt by buying the gem socket from the blacksmith. You can enchant almost all your gear. Your pants you can enchant from buying from a tailor. Your shoulders you can enchant from the Sons of Hodir. The Kirin Tor sell a good head enchant. You cannot enchant your necklace. If you have enchanting, then you can enchant your rings, or else you don't need those. Um, but yeah, that's all for the gear. Let's move on to the talent tree. So okay, and so we're gonna go with Arcane Subtlety. This many people argue that it's not as useful, but this does boost your DPS by a lot. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have 5 points in this, so you don't have any interruption of your spells. You want 3 points in Arcane Focus, as previously explained earlier, as Arcane Focus gives you um shit. What am I doing? Let me make sure. Yeah, okay. All right. Arcane Focus gives you the 3% crit chance and less mana spent. Arcane Concentration gives you clear casting, which later on, once you get the Arcane Potency, boosts your crit chance by 30% when you get it, making your next crit, if you have 60%, you get 90% crit chance. Your Arcane Blast is almost guaranteed to be a crit. So you get that. Magic Attunement is really nice because it gives you 6 yards range on your arcane spells, so you don't really need to do much moving. Spell impact is more damage. Focus magic, this is almost necessary by all mages, no matter what you go, because focus magic gives you a solid 3% crit chance, and 3% crit chance is not a joke. That's a lot of crit. Torment the Weak, you may be questioning, if you're killing bosses, why are you going to get this? This is used on bosses because tanks will slow the attack speed of the boss and shit. And there's a lot of slows that take effect in a raid. And that attack speed's low will boost your damage by 12% on the boss. So you absolutely need this. Arcane Meditation and Student of the Mind, these are secondary if you have extra talent points to put in. You want the first point in Student of the Mind because it gives you 4% spirit, whereas the other points give you 3%. And so that extra 1% is really nice. So always prioritize 1 point in that. Presence of the Mind, you use after you use Arcane Blast, you use it for another instant Arcane Blast. Arcane Potency, as stated before, every time you get clear casting, it's another 30% crit chance. It's not as powerful on your arcane missiles, but if you get it during an arcane blast, you get a high crit chance for the next one. So it's extremely potent there. So Arcane Instability gives you another 3% crit chance on your spells and shit, which is really nice, but it does boost your crit damage by 3%, so that's good. Followed by the other crit damage bonus. This one's 50%, so you get a total of 53% chance, 53% more damage from your spells that you do. Where is it? Arcane Power. You use this along with Icy Veins for massive damage boost together, and you use you use both of those damage cooldowns. They work together and multiply each other's damage. Now, this is where it gets tricky. If you have trinkets that can proc at the beginning of the fight along with your cooldowns that you use at the beginning of the fight, you can use the trinket for another 590 spell power, plus another 590 spell power from both of these, plus 300 or about 300 from this one. So you got 600, 1200, 1500 bonus spell power during a 10-second duration. Plus all your spells do 20% more damage. So you got 1500 spell power, 20% more damage, and when you're using this, you get 20% more casting speed. Now if you have Bloodlust at the beginning of the fight, then you get another 30% casting speed. And don't forget that you get the 500 haste potion for 15 seconds that you can use at the beginning of the fight also, to make your global cooldowns even less. So if you have like a 2-second arcane blast duration, like it will drop down to like 1 second. If you go under 1 second, that's reducing your DPS because there's a global cooldown of 1 second. You can't cast more than one spell a second. So that's that. So going back to the arcane tree, we just take arcane mind. It gives more intellect, more mana, more damage. Arcane empowerment. This is self-explanatory. Boosts the damage of your arcane missiles by 45% of your spell power. Your arcane blast by 9% of the spell power, and then it gives everybody in the raid 3% damage. Like, that's easy to understand. Mind mastery is 15% spell power from your intellect. That's good. Arcane flows gives you the 30% from presence of mind. So instead of 2 minutes from this, it's going to be 1.4, which is really nice. And then your evocation. This is the big point reason why you get it. You get 2 minutes on your evocation. With 2 minutes on evocation plus your mana sapphire. So you make a mana gem. Make sure you have 3 charges when you go into a boss fight. You have 3 charges of this. It's gonna give you about 3,500 mana. This plus evocation, giving you 60% of your mana, will be your mana sustain. And if you use evocation at about 40% mana or so, along with the mana sapphire, you'll never run out of mana in a fight. You don't need to take mana potions or anything. So that's how you keep your mana up. Also, Netherwind Presence gives you 6% spell haste, gives you a little bit more casting speed and shit. It's really nice. This is the big thing right here. Missile Barrage. This gives you a solid 40% chance of getting super fast arcane missiles every time you use an arcane blast. Whenever you get this proc, you want to use arcane missiles, and this is only after you get the 2-piece tier 10, because it gives you 12% spell. I can't hover over it, but the green right there, the hot streak, missile barrage, and brain freeze talents give you 12% spell haste for 5 seconds. So what this does is it makes you use your spells 12% faster whenever you get the proc. And if you use that and you get another proc following it before the spell haste is over, then you can use it again and you can go into the same rotation until you run out of the spell haste. Then you slow down on your DPS as you're not casting as fast until you get your next proc. So you want to abuse the missile barrage and the hot streak bonus from your tier 10 to increase your damage. The glyphs, gonna be simple. It's molten armor, gives you 20% more crit from spirit. Arcane missiles is 25% more crit damage, and arcane blast is 3% more arcane blast damage. This one doesn't do too much. It's like a solid amount of damage. This one is where a lot of your damage comes from, but the minor ones, you can see they really don't make too much of an effect. Slow fall is a really nice one because you never use that spell if you don't get it. So that's what I take. There's this one right here. You need incineration. Yeah, so all of these, like in the early part of fire, don't really do too much. This right here increases the crit chance of your arcane blast by 6%. So it doesn't pop up on your what's it called? On your arcane blast thing, but with this on top of the crit chance, my arcane blast is already at 51%. In a raid, when I get my 60% crit chance, my arcane blast is at 66% crit chance. Then if I follow that up with arcane potency, so it's 66% increased by 30%, it's 96%. The next arcane blast is pretty much guaranteed to be a crit. So this gives you 3% less mana cost again and 3% more hit rating. The thing you don't know is this is for only arcane spells like arcane missile and blast, so it's not going to show up on your hit rating. But this one right here will change your hit rating. It will tell you that you have a 3% higher hit chance, I believe. Unless I'm wrong, but everything that I've done the research on and I've been told and I've studied, The 3% from precision does not get shown, or it does get shown on your hit rating, whereas the other one does not. Icy Veins is by far the best cooldown in tandem with the other cooldowns that I showed you. And then Ice Shards, I take this over Frost Warding because it's a whole lot more crit damage on your frost spells. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, and it doesn't even matter because it, like, the total damage overall feels like a lot more. But with 50% here, 3% there, and 100% here, you'll be doing like 253% crit damage on all your frost spells. So your Blizzard will be your primary AoE area of effect. So when you have a whole lot of enemies, you use Blizzard and it'll do a lot. Frostbite gives 10% chill effect to your enemies. It's good for other people who are running Frost or something and they have Shatter. But it's always nice just to be able to freeze targets. Reduces the cooldown of Frost Cone and Nova and all that, Ice Block and Icy Veins. This one is extremely necessary. It's 20% less cooldown on Icy Veins. So you go down to 2.4, cooldown at 2.4. So that's the talent tree. I've already explained the gear. Let's get into how to do it. How to use all of this. So the rotation is Arcane Blast until you get this right here, this proc. It's Missile Barrage, like I explained. It makes it where your next Arcane Missiles is going to be super fast. So if you use Arcane Blast constantly, and then you get this proc, and it makes the next Arcane Missile super fast, then by logic, like your next Arcane Missile is going to be super fast. You want to use Arcane Missiles afterwards. So we're going to do Arcane Blast, and then Arcane Missiles whenever we get the proc. We're going to use Presence of Mind after we use one Arcane Blast to use the second Arcane Blast instantly. And then the rest is just utility. So I'm going to show you right now how to do this. So I use one. I got the proc. I'm going to use it. And now I'm going to continue doing damage. It appears I'm lagging a bit, but that's alright. So let me see if I could cut the lag out. Turn Discord off. Let me see what else I can cut out real quick. Sorry for this on the video. One more thing and I should be perfectly fine. Alright, so the lag should be gone. Maybe it's the server, I'm not 100% sure, but we're gonna clear this out and we're gonna do a new one. So how I'm gonna do this, I believe my trinkets just finished coming off cooldown. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use all my buffs. First I'm gonna go Arcane Blast because you cannot use Presence of Mind when Arcane Power comes up. So what you do is you use your first Arcane Blast to hit the boss or hit the enemy. Then you follow it up with an instant Arcane Blast right after. This gives you 2 Arcane Blasts immediately. Then you follow it up with all your buffs. And if you get a proc too, that's perfect because you get your proc buff after using Arcane Missiles. And your Arcane Missiles are boosted by damage too. So I'll show you what it does now. Keep going in Arcane Blast until you get your proc. You got the proc. Now I'm going to continue up. I guess I'm not going to be able to use it because of the lag. This is brutal. I really don't know why it's lagging so badly, but the point is you use the Arcane Blast until you get the proc, like right here. If you're going into the next proc because you didn't see that you got the proc, or next Arcane Blast because you didn't see you got the proc, that's okay. Just make sure to use the proc immediately after that arcane blast. So what I'm doing is I'm getting this 5%, this 12% crit haste. I get the proc, I use it. I get to shoot my missiles super quickly. I get the spell haste, lets me use my arcane blast even faster. I got a crit there because I got the 30% bonus. I get both of these at the same time. It boosts my damage. Get the proc. I got a arcane potency thing this again, so I got to use both of them at the same time. Out of mana, I use evocation. And then I go back to just killing it. You don't want to use too many arcane blasts in a row, so like when I get 4 and I don't get the proc, I'm just gonna default to using my arcane missiles slowly. So that's gonna lower your DPS, but if you continue using it without mana or without care for mana, you'll run out of mana. And your objective is to continue casting without being out of mana or running out of mana. And you want to minimize the amount of times that you use arcane missiles without the proc. But the debuff that comes up makes it where every arcane blast that you use is going to cost 175% of the mana cost. Now it's 350, 525. This one is 700%, but your arcane spells do 60% more damage. So I do a whole bunch of crit damage, 5500 crit damage right there. Yeah, because of the lag, I can't show you insane numbers like what I pulled on the last boss. But if you do this properly and you do like you get your your talent tree right, you get your damage right, and you understand how to cast, you can do it really well. Also, because of lag will cut your DPS on arcane hard. Like I'm showing you now, I was able to do 8,000 here. Oh wait. I did the 9200 earlier in the video, you've seen that. But now I'm only doing 3500. Reason why is because I can't clip my spells. I can't put my spells together because, like right here, it slowly like channels into it. But what you want to do is immediately at the very end of the spell, you want to make sure that you're using the other spell. So right there, like I cast it, I make it where I'm using it, but like I can't automatically do it. But the fact of the matter is if you can get your DPS on the dummy high enough, like you'll know that you'll do a lot more in raids. Also, on the dummies, they tend to like not let you do as much damage as you do in raids, but that's all right. So I'd say about 5,000-6,000 damage on the dummies is good when you're trying to boost your damage to about like 7,000-8,000. Without lag, I would pull about 7,000 damage on the dummies, and that's pretty decent. It's not horrible. The dummies tend to not show you an accurate number of DPS, so like take like a good like 30-40% more damage from what you're doing on the dummy, add that on, and that'll be like your raid DPS. So me doing 60% or 6,000 DPS on the dummy, I'll do like 8,500, 9,000. So like I'll do like almost 50% more. So about 40% of the dummy damage is what you're gonna do. So this is how you play Arcane Mage. What you can do to benefit yourself, you have a whole lot of spells that are useful. So spell steal, you can take a magic effect from an enemy if the game allows you to. Some bosses and stuff won't let you, but you can spell steal buffs from an enemy. So like priest buffs from a priest, you can take that from them. You can counter spell enemies. So this it like interrupts the enemy and makes it where they can't cast any spells of that kind for 8 seconds. So if you counterspell a paladin using Holy Light, he won't be able to use any holy spells and you'll fuck him over. So these are good during like boss phases because the 8 seconds of interruption will screw the boss over. Ice block is extremely useful. Let's say you got a mark or something, you're about to get nuked, you're gonna take like 99999 damage, and you're just like, ah shit. You just boom. You're immune to all damage. You can't move or do anything, but you're immune to damage and you'll be alright. So you're good. You can cancel it at any time. So you can do that to avoid things. You can remove curses, so you can take curses off of enemies or off of allies, sorry. I meant frenemies, but whatever. Focus magic, these are the buffs that you're going to use. You need molten armor. This is your main damage buff. The other two are trash. They don't boost your damage at all. Arcane brilliance is for groups. You give them intellect. And focus magic, you usually trade with another mage if there is one. In like really good guilds, you'll prioritize the focus magic on like a Boomkin or something because you want the highest damage group damage as possible. So it doesn't matter if another player is doing like 3k DPS because he gave all the buffs and stuff to the other guy, so he can do 30k DPS. Like the group damage is all that matters in a guild run, but in a pug run, in a like a random person group where you don't know anybody, you just find another mage, you trade off focus magic, you get 3%, he gets 3%, and when you guys crit you get another 3%, so you both give each other 6% crit chance. That's why focus magic is insanely useful. So that's that. Mana shield is nice. It drains all your mana, screws you over, but it does make it where you get a little bit more survivability. You take a little bit more damage in a raid or something, you're dying, you just drain your mana and you can sustain a little bit. So being dead is the worst thing to happen in a raid. But being out of mana just sucks. Like it lowers your damage, but that's okay because I'd rather have a little bit less damage than being dead and not doing any damage. So some is better than none. Will of the Forsaken, just a undead thing. I would recommend if you're gonna start playing Mage to go Troll. It gives you Icy Veins for like 15 seconds or 10 seconds. You get 20% spell haste. So Trolls get the best of everything. Blink is really nice because Blink lets you just like you get hit with some CC or something, you just blink out of it. Frost Nova, this is nice because you can pretty much you can just like snare enemies. You just hit it, AoE snare, everybody's like frozen around you, you run away. It's pretty much what that does. And Fire Blast, if you're in the middle of running and you have an enemy, you just hit them with a Fire Blast, boom, you got them, they're dead. And then the Mana Sapphire is the other thing. So you just go Arcane Blast, Presence of Mind, Arcane Blast, hit the buffs, keep using Arcane Blast. At the very end of an Arcane Blast, you hit the Arcane Missiles. Sometimes you'll get lucky and the proc will just proc right there. After you make a decision to stop wasting mana at the max stack of Arcane Missile. Arcane Barrage, Blast, Blast, Blast. Arcane Blast, after using 4 of these, it goes up to like 700% mana cost, and it's like 1600 mana. You can't sustain using Arcane Blast at that point. So you need to use Arcane Missiles at some point. You can use a little bit of mana here and there for a few procs, or chances to get the proc, but sometimes you're just gonna get unlucky. That's alright. Just make sure like you don't ruin your DPS. But yeah, so you want to make sure that you're using the procs and stuff. And then you'll get lucky and you'll get the proc at the very end and you'll be able to do your damage and then continue using Arcane Blast. But you want to make sure that you get all procs, as much spell power and damage in one point. You want to make sure that you get your haste as high as you can using the regular haste, potions, buffs, bloodlust. Because when you get all your damage and everything all at once, you boost your stats exponentially. You boost your damage exponentially. So let's say you're a level 100 character for like a minute versus being a level 80 character for 5 minutes. That level 100 character, because he has all the stats all together at once, he'll do more damage in that 1 minute than the level 80 will do in 5 minutes. So getting all your stats together, if they do not hinder your cast rate, so if you do not go under the 1 second cast timer on your global casting cooldown, yeah, your global cooldown, if you don't go under that, you're maximizing your DPS still. And so you just go like this, hit them, boom, boom, all the buffs, hit it, proc. You see, okay, the lag is gone, so now I can show you the real DPS. So you hit it, and at the very end, you Q it, so you can hit the arcane missiles right before the end, and they automatically go. Now I'm doing 8,000 DPS on a fucking training dummy without my molten armor. I didn't even realize I didn't have this. But 8,000 DPS, I could have went up to like about 9,000 at that point if I realized I didn't have molten armor. This does extreme amounts of damage. It's like 10% crit chance or 12% crit chance depending on like how much spirit you have and stuff. Now obviously you don't want to stack spirit like I told you, but if you get it from items, like, it's beneficial. It's pretty much crit chance. So you use evocation after you use the spell haste. It makes it where evocation is much faster. You want to make sure like you don't evocate during your procs, because if you have more bonus spell power and you're evocating, you're doing like some utility shit during the time that you should be doing damage. So that's how you do that. So when you use an arcane blast, you follow it up with presence of mind, and you double click it. So you hit like presence of mind and arcane blast at the very same moment, and then you go back to doing damage on the boss. You hit arcane blast at the very end. You hit the arcane missiles. But I want to show you something and make sure you understand this to make sure you get the most damage out of everything. So I hit missiles at the very end. I clip it. So you see how like arcane blast is continuously going after I use the missiles. Like, I'm not stopping at any moment. So look again. Look at it. So I'm gonna hit arcane blast right now. Boom. So I don't let any time go in between the spells, and I cut it off from personal usage to do even more damage. You don't want to stop the last set of missiles from going. So right here, let's say I do it right here. Okay, I might have just cut off the missiles, and now I did less damage. So that's how you do that. You want to make sure you clip your spells, and you're doing as many actions as you can and casting as many spells as you can in the smallest amount of time. But with all that, I feel like you kind of get the gist of everything. You should understand. You should follow the spec in the build. This is like following like most pro guides and shit. This is the best gear I could pull up right now. I'm missing a whole lot of stuff, but just being able to do 9200 DPS with this gear, I'm telling you that I'll be able to do so much more damage with like better items. So this is Atlas loot. I'll just show you a few items that will boost my damage by massive amounts. Oops. So that's a wrong boss. It's Fester Gut. Right here. It's dislodge for an object. Shit. I clicked the wrong button. Right here. 155 haste, 84 haste. This gives you 105 spell power every 2 seconds for 20 seconds. So you'll boost your spell power all the way up to about 1,000 spell power for 2 seconds. But on average, like after about 10 seconds, you hit your like cooldowns and stuff, and you'll be doing like massive DPS. Like you could go up to like 15,000, 20,000 DPS using these. And I'm not talking about just temporary DPS. I'm talking about like actual like after the boss dies, your total DPS will be 15,000. Like some classes like mages are the OG of DPS. The only class that can do more is Fury Warrior, and that's because they get Shadowmourne. Mages can do massive DPS. They can do 20,000 DPS if they know how to play their class well, and they have all the proper gear. Obviously, I'm still working with a lot of trash gear. The only good thing I got is like fucking Frozen Bone Spike and Blood Queens and my tier 10 pieces that are still level 1 out of level 3s. So that's that. But if you follow the guide, you do the rotation you're supposed to do, and you clip your spells, and you understand how to use your cooldowns properly and at the right time, you will be doing top DPS. You'll be doing the best DPS that you can do. And this goes for every DPS class. You want to use all your like damage cooldowns at the same time and during Bloodlust, so you can do all the damage you can in the least amount of time, because spreading out your cooldowns and your DPS, like, or your DPS cooldowns, spreading them out is not going to maximize your DPS. And once you hit the global cooldown cap of 1 second for a lot of your spells, sometimes it will increase your DPS if you use like the 500 haste potion. For me, even at 700 haste, during Bloodlust, the 500 haste potion will put my arcane blast from like 1.03 seconds to 0.83, and the global cooldown is 1 second. So going beyond 1 second is ruining my DPS. So I'll hold on to my potion until one of my like haste cooldowns go down. So if you have Icy Veins and it's giving you 20% like casting speed, and it drops you from 1.23 to, or yeah, 1.23 to 1.03, and then you'll go over. You hold on to your cooldown. You make sure like you don't go over the cap, or technically under, as haste reduces the casting time. And so you wait till that goes away. You still have Bloodlust because it's a longer cooldown. It's 40 seconds. This is only 20 seconds. So you use your potion for the other 15 seconds of the Bloodlust. And now you're back down to the global cooldown of 1.03 seconds, or 1 second. So you spread out the cooldowns only, and only, you got to understand, this is only if it goes beyond the global cooldown. Now there's no capped spell power. So if you got any cooldowns that increase your damage or spell power or any of that, then use them all at the same time. If you can get your crit chance to like 90% or something, do it. Like, well, sometimes like if you have like cooldowns that'll get you beyond the crit cap, I think there's like a 70% crit cap or something. But the point is you don't want to hit the caps, but, or you don't want to go over the caps because you reduce your stats on what you're getting, but you want to go as high as you can on all the skills to boost your damage. You want to get as many stats at the same time for as long as possible, and spread them out if they hit any caps, to make sure that you're boosting your max DPS. And with that, it seems like you guys understand where I'm coming from and how the damage racks up. I don't think there's anything else to explain. I will be doing a YouTube sub giveaway. Well, no, not a YouTube sub giveaway. I'm going to be doing a Twitch sub giveaway. It's going to be 1,000 gold to anyone online watching my stream at the end of my streams. So the link is going to be in the description of the video. What I'm going to do is give the 1,000 gold to people. I'm going to get everybody in the party or a raid. We're all going to roll. I'm not going to roll, obviously. I'm the one giving it away, but everyone's going to roll. If you win the roll, you get the gold. If you're the only sub on Twitch that I have, then you're going to get the gold by default because nobody else is there, but that's only in the beginning. There's going to be multiple subs rolling at the start, and then after I get like a bunch of subs, then I'm gonna increase the amount of giveaways. Like I'll do 1,000, then I'll do 2,000, 2 sets of 1,000. But for now, I'm only doing 1,000 gold giveaways. Um, the link to my stream is gonna be in the description. You can also go on my YouTube profile and click the Twitch icon. But I stream Friday, Saturday, and Sunday along with Wednesday. And if you got any questions, you got any concerns, any thoughts, I will address them. I'll talk to you on stream. I respond to my Twitch chat constantly. I'm more than willing to help anybody out. I don't generally just give free shit to people who are like, "Hey, can I get free shit?" But sometimes I might. So that's that. And so just check out the stream. Hit me up with a follow. If you like my stream, you can sub. Like, show your support, talk to me, chill with me. It is what it is. But I wanted to show everybody how to do max damage as an arcane mage, and I feel like I've done that regardless of what items you're using. Some items are better than others. You do not want to go over the hit cap. You don't want to use the hit trinkets. Um, and you want to make sure you're getting the most stats out of all your gear. So it's like average stats and then procs. Procs usually can be abused and you can get more value out of them. But there's a lot of gear like Mirrored and Spyglass that beats out the procs because they give like constant stat bonuses along with stats during your procs. So there's that. Everybody should understand what's explained here. If you need anything else, if you want to see any other videos, learn anything else like best leveling guides or whatever for Wrath of the Lich King, Warmane, anything, just hit me up and leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that shit, whatever. Just let me know what you want, what you need to see, what you need explained, and I will pretty much give it to you. Alright, so thank you for watching. Have a great day. And as always, don't forget to smile.